One of the most debated questions in the history of the United Nations. Why do only 5 countries have veto power over all decisions at the Security Council? For almost 80 years, they've been at the top of the food chain. China, France, Russia, the UK, and of course the United States. The world has changed since then, but the UN Security Council has not. Decades ago, the P5, or the Permanent Five as they're called, decided to allow countries to join as rotating, non-permanent members with no veto. After all, the Security Council is the most powerful body at the UN, with the ability to impose sanctions and to authorize the use of force against countries. And now Washington is talking about creating permanent seats for 2 African nations, but get this, with no veto power. Why? And why now? Today we're talking with Adikana Chihombori Kwao, former ambassador of the African Union to the United States. Ambassador, it's terrific to have you back on our show. I want to start with a film clip of the U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Linda Thomas-Greenfield. Let's listen.
As it stands, there are currently 3 non-permanent seats on the Security Council allocated to African countries on a rotating basis for 2 years. The problem is these elected seats don't enable African countries to deliver the full benefit of their knowledge and voices to the work of the Council, to consistently lead on the challenges that affect all of us and disproportionately affect Africa. That is why, in addition to non-permanent memberships for African countries, the United States supports creating 2 permanent seats for Africa on the Council. It's what our African partners seek, and we believe this is what is just.
Ambassador Chihombori, let me ask you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how enthusiastic are you about the proposal that the ambassador has just made?
I think it's a step in the right direction. However, keeping in mind that this issue has been on the table, ongoing for, like you said, 80 years. If we are going to right the wrong, why can't we just right this wrong once and for all? If Africa is going to become a member of the UN Security Council, a permanent member, they must have the full rights just like the other 5 members, which means they must have veto power. Inviting Africa to the table and then asking them to remain mute is an insult not only to the African leaders, but it is an insult to 1.4 billion people. We appreciate what Ambassador Greenfield is saying. We appreciate the efforts she has made. But if she is going to complete this journey that has been going on for far too long, a journey that clearly exemplifies the continued disrespect of the African continent, Ambassador Greenfield must push for us to take this issue to the finish line. Africa must have 2 permanent seats at the UN Security Council with full veto power. Nothing less is acceptable. And I do believe that the United Nations, understanding how long this issue has been going on, how long the disrespect of the African continent has been going on, it is shameful that the United Nations would want to continue to blatantly disrespect the Africans by inviting them to the table, but then saying, sorry, you can't eat. You can only watch us play our games. You can watch us enjoy the 10-course meal. What a joke. What an insult. And I do hope that the African leaders are not going to accept it. Africa must be at the table as a permanent member of the UN Security Council, and the 2 seats must have veto power, plain and simple, period.
As we have just heard, the United States is advocating for the creation of 2 permanent seats on the UN Security Council for African countries. The African continent is a chief source of critical minerals like gold, cobalt, uranium, diamonds, oil, and many more that drives the global economy. These raw materials have also been used by the global north in the manufacture of weapons technology that is being used all around the world to create instability and war. A continent like Africa that supplies the global north with these critical minerals should not only deserve a seat on the UN Security Council but must demand it. But something doesn't sit right with me with regards to the timing of this announcement. I personally take issue with the country that is advocating for this. First of all, one must ask themselves this question: why shouldn't the proposed two African countries being admitted to the UN Security Council not have veto powers? Could it be a way to give the African continent a false sense of importance in order to ensure that the United States will always have African support on the global stage? We all know that Africa has been building ever closer ties with China and Russia in recent years. Is this performance by the United States of America an attempt at a diplomatic coup? Is this a gesture? Or rather, is this gesture an attempt to give Africa a false sense of importance and delusions of grandeur? In any case, Africa should take full advantage of this opportunity, but ensure that under no circumstances should we become a permanent member of the United Nations Security Council without the only power that truly matters, which is the ability to say no and veto any motion that does not benefit our continent's sovereignty and security.